one of the hot topics out there in the Poshmark community is to use stock photos, not to use stock photos. What happens when you use a stock photo? What are the ramifications if a stock photo gets your listing taken down? And so I have talked on my Instagram, on my channel about stock photos in the past, but today's video is specifically going to talk a little bit about what can we do and what happens and what does it mean when one of your listings gets taken down because of a stock photo. Let's dive in. Thank you to Vendu for sponsoring today's video. Since we're talking about how to handle stock photos and removals on Poshmark, it only makes sense to share that Vendu makes this process easy and painless. When Vendu is your inventory hub, all your listings are housed there. So if anything happens on any platform, Vendu is your backup. You can easily make an edit to your listing in Vendu and relist in seconds. No problem at all. I have used Vendu exclusively for years to draft, to list, cross-post, delist, relist, manage inventory with labels, track analytics, and more. But lately, the improved delist and relist capacity is my favorite feature. Use the link below to get 30% off your first month of Vendu. So today we're going to be talking about what you can do and how to kind of deal with the situation of a stock photo getting your Poshmark listing taken down. And what are the ramifications of that? What can you do about it? And also really, how can you use stock photos as safely as you can? So the first thing I need to say is that you shouldn't use stock photos, right? So stock photos are not your photos. And so if you find a professional photo on the internet of an item with a model wearing the item and you did not take it and that is not your model and you did not pay them and you do not have the rights to use this photo, you're not supposed to use it. So I need to put that out there because that is the truth. Just because it's being done doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. With that aside, if you choose to use one, that is your own choice for your own business. And many people do make that choice. There are times where I choose to make that choice. And then I need to deal with those consequences if a consequence results from using those photos. So I do just kind of want to put that out there because it is controversial and it is really not something you're supposed to do. But I think it needs to be addressed because people deal with this issue often. So just going back through my notes, I do also want to make sure that we talk about, primarily I'm speaking about Poshmark in this because that's really where, my expertise lies is in being a Poshmark seller. And each platform does kind of handle these things differently. When I did sell on eBay, I took stock photos a lot more seriously because I heard from within the community that you really don't want to mess around on eBay with stock photos. So I made it a rule when I was selling on eBay not to use stock photos of any kind. Some people do choose to use stock photos for certain brands, and then there are other brands that they don't use them for because they know that those brands are known to give you the Vero or whatever on eBay. I just made it a rule for myself that I didn't use stock photos on eBay. When I was selling on Mercari, I did use stock photos, but I think that I know that Mercari handles stock photos a lot differently than Poshmark does. So when I was a seller on eBay and Mercari, I didn't put any stock photos on eBay. I did put them on Mercari, but they take it a lot more seriously than Poshmark does. This is just my experience. So right now I'm going to go back to Poshmark. So if you use a stock photo and your listing gets removed because you used a stock photo, probably you'll know about this because Poshmark will send you an email that says you have violated the DMCA, DCMA, whatever it's called, regulations, and that stands for, using somebody's copyrighted material. And I don't know the ins and outs, and I don't really need to. But they're saying you did an infringement, you used somebody's photo that you shouldn't have, and so we took your listing down. Now, I've seen people's photos get taken down when they didn't use a stock photo claiming this. So there are some people that model their photos and they will get their items taken down because an AI or a virtual assistant or just somebody that's not very good at their job, if it's a person who's looking out there for these copyright infringements on behalf of a company, they'll actually get flagged when it's not a stock photo. It's just the reseller who modeled the item. So that has happened. There have been erroneous claims. And so that's one thing. And there really isn't much you can do. The same solutions that I'm going to present to you will apply, but you can get it taken down when it's not your fault. So that's one thing. Then let's say it is your fault. So you did use the stock photo, you get the email, they said you violated the thing, we're taking your listing down. Now what do? So at least you know what listing it is. At least currently on Poshmark, they tell you what listing it was, so you can go back and, handle it. But I do think that you want to be, kind of careful with this. So if this happens, you get the email, they say, okay, we're taking your listing down. Your listing has been taken down. It's been removed because of the violation, but you know which listing it is. It's already gone from Poshmark. So if you are a person that lists directly on Poshmark and you do not have any kind of backup system, and by that I mean like an inventory hub like Vendoo. When I list, I'm listing my items in Vendoo. I create my drafts in Vendoo, and Vendoo serves as my backup inventory hub or a listing record for me, and then it posts on Poshmark. So if the Poshmark listing gets taken down, Vendoo is there as my backup. I can easily go into Vendoo, I find that item, I mark it as no longer being listed because it's no longer listed. It didn't sell. They can't delist it because the original listing isn't there to delist. So you mark it as not listed, and then you click relist. First, you take out the stock photo, then you click relist. And so that will solve your problem in 20 seconds or less. So having Vendoo as my inventory hub proves to be really helpful in this scenario because, for so many reasons, but in this particular scenario, I don't have to go back and try to find those photos. I don't have to relist the item from scratch and redo the title and redo the description, because when Poshmark removes that listing, it's gone. You've lost all that work. You've lost all those photos. So unless you're someone that literally keeps every single photo you've ever taken for forever and you can easily go back and find it, those photos are finished. And if you're like me and you have an inventory number and that's in your listing, and then the listing goes away and you don't have a backup like Vendoo, you will also not know what inventory number it is. So you couldn't even go back to find it if you wanted to because you don't know what the inventory number is. So in this situation, if you're someone that uses stock photos, you may really want to have Vendoo as your backup because you can just relist in seconds. And so that solves the problem right away. If you don't have it, you're going to have a lot of work to do, and it's going to be really difficult to find the item and get it relisted. Now, just talking a little bit about how this can happen. So I have had experiences with brands like Vineyard Vines, with Aritzia. I'm trying to think, no other big ones come to mind with me for Poshmark, but I have gotten those emails from Poshmark for Aritzia items and for Vineyard Vines items. So what happens is Vineyard Vines will take an intern or an AI or a bot or somebody, and they will say, your job is to go out and find all of our stock photos that are being used illegally on Poshmark or other places. Go. And then they'll make a list, and then they'll contact Poshmark and say, we found all these listings on your platform. They're using our photos. You need to get them taken down. And then Poshmark will go in and take down all those listings. And then they send you the email that says your item was removed due to the regulation. That's your prompt to go in then and relist your item without the stock photo, and that solves the problem. There's really no ramification at this point with Poshmark that I have been able to see. Now that might change in the future. They may make a 3-strike rule. They may say, okay, we're doing 0 tolerance now, and if you use a stock photo and we catch you, you're gonna immediately be suspended or banned. All of those things could happen. Right now, to my knowledge, those are not happening. It's get the email, they take it down, and it's kind of on you to determine what you want to do after that. And I've gotten many of these over the years, and I have not seen, like I said, a ramification. But I do take it seriously now because I have heard of on other platforms accounts being banned forever from too many strikes against you with using stock photos. So because I've seen that potential, I kind of take it very seriously, even with Poshmark, even though there's no super duper, ramifications from it. So my advice to you is you shouldn't use stock photos. If for your business you choose to use stock photos, you should stay away from the main brands that will get you shut down or get your listing taken down for use of it. So brands that I know of are Aritzia, brands that I know of are Vineyard Vines. On eBay, I know White House Black Market is a big one. So if you know of a brand where you have gotten the DMCA regulation email and your item has gotten taken down, let us know some of those brands down in the comments so that way we can kind of just share that information with others. So going forward, for Aritzia, I don't put a stock photo up. That's not part of my process anymore. For Vineyard Vines, I don't put those stock photos up. It's just no longer part of my process. But I do use stock photos for other brands. And when there's an issue, I'll handle it by relisting the item without the stock photo, and I may make the decision saying going forward with this brand, I'm no longer going to do stock photos. Now, some of the other things that you can do to kind of work around this situation is you should not rely on stock photos to be your best photo. It should be a nice to have, a bonus, something that you add in to kind of help your item sell if you choose to do it, but you should not be solely reliant on it. Your regular photos that you take should be your best photos. And that way, in case the item does get taken down, and you go in and remove the stock photo and you relist the item, you know that your photos are good to stand on their own. And so you don't have to then retake photos. If you were somebody that just used a good stock photo and then your photos were garbage and then your listing got taken down, you removed the stock photo and you put your listing up and you're like, oh my God, now my photos are garbage. I don't want this. I need to go retake the photos. Now you got to go back, find the item, retake the photos, upload them, refix the thing. That's a lot of work. So for me, I kind of hedge my bets and prepare that my photos are going to be able to be good enough to stand on their own. If I happen to see a stock photo that I can use to help my item sell, great. Awesome. And then you don't have to worry about it. But I like to make sure that my photos are good on their own so that I don't have to rely on stock photos at all, which I think is a good piece of advice. The other point I will make, and I have experimented with this, and so I'm not quite ready to share all about it yet. I need to look into it a little bit more, but there are mock-up services, AI services, there are apps out there that will allow you to take an item that you've taken a photo of, and they will, through their little magical technical wizardry, put it on a person. And then you can use that photo. So I have been experimenting with this. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a video about AI mockups or how to do model mockups in apps, whatever you want to put down in the comments. And I might start looking into doing that and maybe comparing some services because I have toyed with a few of them out there, but there's many, many more. And I do think that that's kind of a way where you can get away from the stock photos, but still showcase a model showcasing the item that gives you that stock photo effect without actually doing the bad thing. So those are all of my thoughts on this. Again, I get questions about this. That's what kind of prompted this video. So when you guys are having a situation, I'd love to hear about it because then I can do a video on it and kind of help the whole community. Let me know if you have other questions about this topic down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you again to Vendoo for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to use the link below to get started with 5 free listings per month to try it out and get 30% off your first paid month of Vendoo.